Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Rich Stories, the channel where wealth, ambition, and hidden secrets of the elite come to life. The Levingston mansion was more than a house. It was a kingdom carved from stone and glass, with its endless corridors, crystal chandeliers, and gardens trimmed like artwork. It stood as a monument to a family whose name meant influence, power, and untouchable privilege. Guests who entered were dazzled. But for Eleanor Levingston, the only daughter of the dynasty, the mansion was not a palace, it was a cage. Since childhood, her path had been designed by others. Tutors filled her days with lessons in languages and etiquette. Parties demanded her presence, not for her joy, but for the family's image. Cameras followed her every step, journalists praised her elegance, and strangers spoke of her as if she were a possession rather than a person. Eleanor often wondered, did anyone actually see her? Or did they only see the heiress, an asset disguised as a young woman? Her father, Charles Levingston, embodied the iron will of the dynasty. For him, tradition was sacred, and the family's empire mattered more than anything, more than Eleanor's happiness, more than her freedom. Her mother, Victoria, with her flawless pearls and carefully practiced smile, seemed softer, but her loyalty was the same. Together, they ruled the family not with love, but with expectations. On Eleanor's 23rd birthday, her future was revealed to the world. During the annual Levingston Gala, an event filled with tycoons, politicians, and celebrities, her father raised a glass of champagne and announced her engagement to Victor Ashford, the heir of another colossal fortune. Applause erupted, flashes from cameras blinded her, and the guests cheered as if witnessing the union of royalty. But Eleanor's heart sank. Victor Ashford was the kind of man society adored, polished, ambitious, and dangerous. His family's wealth was immense, but their influence was slipping. By joining with the Livingstons, his future would be secured, and Eleanor would be his crown jewel, paraded across headlines and events, her life reduced to a transaction disguised as love. At night, locked away in her private study, Eleanor scribbled her thoughts in a secret journal. She dreamed of escaping the suffocating glamour, of traveling without guards, of creating something meaningful by her own will. She designed projects that could change lives, not just charities for publicity, but real ideas that mattered. Yet each morning, the same golden chains bound her, the routines, the appearances, and now the forced engagement. One evening, exhausted by endless conversations about wedding details that were nothing more than business strategies, she dared to whisper, "What if I don't want this marriage?" Her father's stare froze the room. "You will marry Victor," he declared. "This union secures our empire. Your wishes do not matter." Her mother added gently, though with no warmth, "Love fades, Eleanor. Legacy lasts forever." That night, Eleanor finally understood. To her parents, she was not their daughter. She was their investment. But somewhere deep inside, a spark remained alive. The cage was golden, yes, but it was still a cage. And if she found the courage to break it, she might discover who she truly was. Eleanor stood before the mirror in her room, diamonds around her neck, silk gown flowing like water, and thought, they can plan my life. They can announce my marriage. But they cannot control my heart. The question was no longer whether she would accept her fate. The question was, how far would she go to escape it? And when she made her move, the empire her family built for centuries might tremble to the ground. The days following the announcement of Eleanor Levingston's engagement blurred into a parade of meetings, fittings, and headlines. Newspapers called it the union of dynasties, while social media overflowed with praise for the perfect couple. Strangers believed Eleanor was living a dream. But behind the mansion's gates, she was suffocating. Every night when the corridors finally emptied and her parents retired, Eleanor slipped into her study to write in her journal. Her entries were no longer mere dreams, they were plans. She drew maps of the city, listed contacts she could trust, and even calculated how much of her personal allowance she could hide without arousing suspicion. The thought of leaving everything, the jewels, the status, the fortune, terrified her. Yet the thought of staying terrified her even more. Victor Ashford grew more possessive each day. He visited often, speaking not of love, but of deals and influence. "Together, Eleanor," he said, "we will own this world. People will bow when we enter a room. You'll never need to lift a finger," but his words chilled her. To Victor, she was not a partner. She was a trophy. One evening, Eleanor stood on the balcony of her room, gazing at the city lights far below. Somewhere beyond the glowing skyline, ordinary people lived lives filled with choices, struggles, and freedom. For the first time, she realized that wealth could be the heaviest chain of all. Her decision came suddenly, like a spark in the dark. She would not walk down that aisle. She would not bind her life to Victor's. If her family saw her as a pawn, then she would remove herself from their game. On the night of the engagement banquet, when hundreds of guests filled the mansion's halls, Eleanor acted. While her parents and Victor basked in the attention, she slipped away, dressed not in silk or diamonds, but in a simple coat she had hidden beneath her gown. For the first time in her life, she walked through the servants' entrance, unnoticed, unguarded, free. The city streets were loud, chaotic, alive. Eleanor felt the rush of anonymity as she blended into the crowd. No cameras, no obligations, no chains. She carried nothing but a small bag, her journal, and the determination to start anew. Behind her, the Livingston Empire would rage in scandal. Her parents would call it betrayal. Victor would call it humiliation. The world would call it madness. But Eleanor called it freedom. For the first time, her life was her own, and as she disappeared into the night, she realized the greatest fortune she could ever possess was not her family's billions, but the courage to choose her destiny.